Vic Valentine, manager of Scottish Trans. Well, I'm joined now by Maya Forstater, founder and CEO of Sex Matters, which campaigns for sex-based rights for women. Thank you so much for being with us, Maya Forstater. Your reaction to today's ruling?
We're delighted about the judgment. We're very proud that Sex Matters was able to intervene in support of For Women Scotland, and we think the Supreme Court got it absolutely right. It's a really clear judgment, and it makes clear that women's rights are protected by the Equality Act. It puts women's rights at the heart of the judgment.
How do you think it's going to affect people
about who can use which spaces based on sex?
Sorry to interrupt. How do you think it will practically affect people in normal daily life?
I can't hear, I'm afraid.
Are you able to hear us now? I'm sorry if you can't.
No,
you can't
not very well.
Now.
Shout.
Shout. I will try, and they will
yes,
no doubt
please.
Try and turn the level up to you. Apologies for that, Maya. I was just asking, what's the practical effect going to be of this?
I think the practical effect of this is going to be that public bodies, the UK government, Scottish government, Welsh government, every local council, every employer and all the organisations that advise them and the Equality and Human Rights Commission are going to have to throw their old policies in the bin and start again from scratch, recognising that women are a separate group from men and that trans women, that is men who identify as women, whether they have a gender recognition certificate or not, are a subgroup of men, not a subgroup of women. And everyone is protected by the Equality Act, but you mustn't get confused about these different categories. And so policies that have so far said that people should be allowed to self-identify into services and spaces based on their gender identity will be unlawful and will need to be revised and reissued.
So even people with a gender recognition certificate, as the previous speaker was saying, if they have changed their gender and they, for example, go into a single-sex ward in a hospital, they would go into the ward at which reflects their gender at birth.
Yes, or they wouldn't have the right to demand to go into the opposite sex ward. I mean, often in many situations, it's possible to have a unisex option. So you're not necessarily forcing somebody into a space where they feel uncomfortable, but you're not giving them the right to go into a space where they make other people feel uncomfortable, or into a sport or into a service that's provided for members of the opposite sex. So in many situations, you can provide a third space, and in some situations, such as prisons, you can't. You will need to keep male prisoners in the male estate and keep them safe, which is currently what they do with most trans-identifying male prisoners, that is, prisoners who identify as trans women.
And are there future areas, do you think, that still need clarity?
Yes, I think data. So the Gender Recognition Act also puts strong protections on the privacy of data, and it means that if a service provider knows that somebody has a gender recognition certificate, they could be committing a criminal act by sharing that information, but they may need that information in order to keep that person safe, for example, in order to invite them to the right medical tests. And the government's got a bill going through at the moment, the data bill, which is going to allow people to prove their sex based on what's in their passport. And what's in their passport is not their biological sex. Anyone can change the sex on their passport with just a 7-minute appointment with their GP. No diagnosis, no treatment, really no checking. And so the sex that's marked on a person's passport is not reliable, and it's not in line with the judgment from the Supreme Court today. So the government is going to have to sort out both policy and guidance and its forthcoming legislation to bring it into line with the Supreme Court.
This whole question has been very toxic and divisive, hasn't it? And do you think now that there will be clarity? Because we've heard from a couple of guests on the trans campaign front who obviously are very disappointed.
I hope so. I think a large part of why this debate has been so toxic and so difficult has been because the government and the regulator have misunderstood the law and haven't been doing their job. It took a group of campaigners, women organising on their kitchen tables, collecting small donations, organising on Mumsnet to work out what the law really is. It's extraordinary. Now we know what the law really is. The regulator, the government, should step up and give very clear guidance. People shouldn't be having to negotiate this within individual workplaces. People like Sandy Peggy, the nurse in NHS Fife, should not be having to have an argument with her colleague. We should just have clear rules that protect everyone and let them get on with their jobs.
Just finally, on the vexed issue of bathrooms, single-sex bathrooms, it's easy to see, isn't it, how bigger establishments can provide different options, including single-sex and unisex spaces. But for smaller companies, pubs, cafes and so on, do you think this ruling will change where they are? Because it's still a sort of daily concern. That's where people often notice this, isn't it?
I think if you put a sign up on the door, you know, the little man or the little woman, everyone needs to understand what that means. And that means children, older people, people who speak English as a second language, whatever the size of the establishment is, you can't put up those signs and then say they're not clear. It's like an exit sign or a fire escape. Those signs are meant to be understood by everyone. If it's a very small cafe and you only have one toilet and it's a fully enclosed room like you have at home, then that's a unisex option for everybody. You know, this is not trying to make life difficult for people. It's just trying to say where there is a sign on the door that says female only, that means female only, and asking men who identify as transgender to start respecting women's rights.
Maya Forstater from Sex Matters, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thanks.